Yes. Good evening, everyone. So let's start the session. In the last session, we have covered the identity access management, and we have seen like what is a users, different types of users available. I mean, the root user and the IAM user. For every IAM user, there are different types of access available. One is a management console access, and the second one is the programmatic access. Management console is also known as a console, web console access. Both are same. Okay. And whenever you create a new IAM user, by default, the new IAM user will get no permissions. Means he can't read, he can't write, he can't do anything. So exclusively, we have to provide the permissions, which we already seen in the last session with some hands-on exercises. And also, I created a Google Classroom and I will add you guys into the Google Classroom where I will upload the kind of assignments, the tasks you have to complete. Okay. And then we have seen the groups. The groups are a kind of a container where we can, what we call that, collect the similar users, where we can collect the similar users together, depends on their, what we call that, their teams or their level of access or whatever. That depends on our requirement. The advantage of the groups is the advantage of the group is easy administration. If you have a similar users who requires the same kind of an access, instead of applying the permissions to each and every user, simply we can apply the permissions on the group, and then we can add all the users to the same group so that every user will get the same set of permissions. And how we can apply the permissions with the help of a policy. We need to attach the policy to a user directly, or we can attach the policy to a group, right? So that the users will get the necessary permissions. Now, what is a policy? The policy is a document which contains the permissions in JSON format. No need to worry about like how to write the JSON script and all. We have a visual editor which we have seen in the last session, where you need to select all the required level of permissions so that the JSON policy will be automatically generated. So that the JSON will be automatically generated. That's where we concluded the IAM topic. But in the IAM, we have another concept called roles. But at this point, we can't do any practicals on the roles because it requires at least what we call that uh, two different services we have to use. With the help of two different services, we have to implement the roles concept. So by completing the EC2 and S3, we will use this roles concept together, right? So in this session, let's talk about another service called Elastic Compute Cloud. In short, we call it as EC2. We call it as EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. What is this Elastic Compute Cloud? This EC2 is AWS managed service by using which AWS offers computing capacity as per our requirement. They're going to offer you compute capacity or computing capacity. What is this compute capacity? Computing capacity is nothing but a kind of a CPU, a RAM, network connectivity, right? These all are a compute capacity. What exactly this is, what we can do using this compute capacity. Let us say in a layman's term, we can say the EC2 is a service by using which we can create servers in the cloud. We can create a server in the cloud, and that server is called as instance. And that server is called as instance. Actually, these instances are a virtual machines. Okay, let us make it simple. Whenever you are going to get a server in the cloud, whenever you are going to get a server in the cloud, do you think they will purchase a physical machine and they will give access to the physical machine? No, never. What they do, they use a concept called virtualization. What does that mean is, first they will purchase, they will maintain a big physical server in which they might have something called 128 CPU, 2048 GB of RAM, and let us say 100 terabytes of a storage, right? Then they use something called virtualization. They use something called virtualization. And with the help of this virtualization, what they do is they can create multiple virtual servers. We call it as VMs. If you ask me, what are these virtualization softwares? I can say something called a Citrix Xen server or VMware ESX server or Microsoft Hyper-V. These all are a virtualization tools. What is the advantage? They need to maintain a single big server and then they can run multiple virtual servers. So let us say this machine is getting 2 CPU, 4 GB of a RAM, and these will be allocated from the basic bare, the physical resources. Like that, they can create as many virtual servers until they utilize all the CPU and all the RAM. Until then, they can create as many virtual machines. The same thing, any cloud, not only the AWS. If you go for any cloud, or even if you are going for on-premises, they are using virtualization only. So EC2 is the service by using which it will allow you to create the virtual servers in the cloud. They will allow you to create virtual servers in the cloud. And that virtual server is technically known as EC2 instance. This is Amazon's specific technical term for this particular virtual server, in which you can choose, because let us say I need one server and you need one server, but I might require 4 GB of RAM and a 2 CPU, and you might require 16 CPU and 64 GB of RAM, right? So they will allow you to customize your virtual server as per your requirement. So they will allow you to create the virtual machine or EC2 instance as per your requirement, as per your requirement. So here you need to specify how many CPUs you need, how much RAM you need, and then how much storage you need, and what operating system you need. We call it as OS, and what additional softwares you need. You can choose each and every option with the help of the EC2. And in this EC2, what's our responsibility and what's Amazon's responsibility? So here, if you observe in this EC2, let us say the physical hardwares, all the physical things, CPU, RAM, hard disk will be taken care by Amazon. These are AWS managed resources, and operating system, softwares, data, everything is customer managed. Means we have to manage the operating system, like securing the operating system, installing the softwares, managing the data, everything is our responsibility. So now, basic thing is with the help of the EC2, we can get our EC2 instances, or we can say the virtual servers. We can get our virtual servers in the cloud. And here, Amazon is offering you different things. Amazon is offering you different things. What all those are? The first one is purchasing model. First one, what we have to learn is purchasing model. What type of purchasing model we are going for? Means whenever you are creating an EC2 instance, you need to choose few things. One is a purchasing model. The second one is something called instance type, what type of instance you need, and tenancy model. These are the things which you must choose. Without selecting these three components, we can't create an EC2 instance, that's for sure. So let us talk about each and every component individually. What is the first one? Let us go with purchasing model. Let us go with purchasing model. So here we have different types of purchasing models available. One is on demand. One is on demand purchasing model. The second one is reserved. The third one is a spot. There is something called a savings model, savings plan also. Let us talk about these two. What is the first one? On demand. What is the meaning of, what is the advantage of the on demand purchasing model is no need to pay any upfront charges. No need to pay any upfront. What is the meaning of a upfront? What is the meaning of upfront? Advance. No need to pay any advance money to create an EC2 instance using on demand purchasing mode. Then the other feature is no commitment. There is no commitment. What is the meaning of a commitment? There is no restriction that, or there is no commitment that whatever the EC2 instance we create, you have to use like minimum 1 month, minimum 1 year, or minimum 10 days. There is no such commitment. It is a flexible. It is flexible. What is the meaning of a flexible? If I create now and if I delete after 1 hour, then I will be charged for that 1 hour usage only. That is what on demand. For example, to understand the differences, what is the advantages and when to choose what type of purchasing model, I will say, let us say for a specific size of an EC2 instance, like 2 CPU, 4 GB of a RAM EC2 instance, let us say in the on demand, they are charging you, let us say 100 rupees for 100 rupees. In the on demand, 100 rupees is, let's say, per hour. For every hour, you have to pay 100 rupees, for example. Then here, no need to pay any advance amount, no need to give any commitment, and it is a flexible. At any time you can create, and whenever you're done with your work or whenever you don't need that server anymore, you can terminate it. So that whatever the real usage you have done, only for that you will be charged. No commitment, no extra amount. Then we have a reserved model. We call it as a reserved instances also. In this reserved model, we are going to reserve the instances for a specific time. There is a commitment in the short term. I can say in the reserved instances, you have to give a commitment. Like there are two types of commitments, like 1 year or a 3 years commitment, which means whether you use it or not, you have to pay for the committed tenure. Now you might ask a question, why should I give a commitment? Because here I have on-demand instances, on-demand purchasing model, where I don't need any commitment or anything, right? So here in the reserved instances, you will get some discount, like up to 75% discount based on your commitment and based on your payment plan. You will get up to 75% discount. In the reserved instances, there is an option that you can get up to 75% discount. As we are getting the discount, there is a lock-in period, like commitment. Let us say if I create a 1 year commitment reserved instance, then they will give you something like 30% discount or something. Depends on the size of the, whenever you're creating the bigger servers, you are getting more discount. Then you have to pay for the entire 1 year. Whether you use it or not, they don't care. You have to pay it because you have given a commitment. And in every commitment, whether you are giving a 1 year commitment or a 3 years commitment, there is a payment plan. There is a payment plan. One is no upfront. Second one is partial upfront and full upfront. Upfront means advance payment. Upfront means advance payment. If you are giving no upfront, let us say you are getting 30% discount. If you are giving partial upfront, you will get 40% discount. If you are paying full amount as an advance for the entire 1 year, you might get like 40 to 50% discount. What is the no upfront means? Let us say for this 1 year commitment, every month you have to pay $1,000 for example. So no need to pay any advance amount. By end of the month, you have to pay ₹1,000. Let us say they are giving you 30% discount. So it is going to be ₹700. You have to pay 700 per month at the end of the month. Partial upfront means what they do is 1 year partial upfront, they may give you 40% discount. For example, means 600 per month. What is the total amount per year? It's like 612 is 72, 7,200. So they will ask you to pay, let us say 3,600 as an advance, 3,600 as an advance amount, and the remaining 3,600 in a 12 months period. 3,600 divided 12, is it going to be 300 per month? So every month you have to pay ₹300. Full upfront means they might give you 50% discount. So it's like $500, sorry, ₹500 per month. Per 12, it's going to be 6,000 per year. So here, what's happening? 8,400 per year you are paying. And here you are paying just 6,200. And here you are paying just ₹6,000. So based on your payment plans, you are getting more discount. And if you are going like 3 years, here also you have no upfront, partial upfront, full upfront. Let us say here you are getting 30%, 35% discount, 40% discount. Here you might get 45%, 50%, let us say 75%. Up to 75% discount you are getting. It depends on the commitment and the payment plan. By combination of these two, you are getting more a discount. That is what the reserved instances are. Now, savings plan. It is somewhat related to the reserved instance. So here in the reserved instance, we are giving the commitment per server. If I create one server, I will use that server for 1 year or so. In the savings plan, how the savings plan works is, it's a purely on the compute capacity. How I will say, okay, I use 100 CPU and I will use 1,000 GB of a RAM per year. That doesn't mean in a single server, I will use 100 CPU or 1,000 GB of a RAM. In all EC2 instances in my account, all together, I will use 100 CPU. Here, let us say 10 CPU, I'm using 20 CPU, 30 CPU, 40 CPU, 10 CPU. All together, 100 CPU business, I'm giving it to you. That's how the savings plan purchasing model is. So that we will get a decent discount, but there is no lock-in for each and every server. I can create one server now, I can terminate it, I can create one more. So all together, they will calculate the cumulative usage. And if I am reaching 100 CPU and 1,000 GB of utilization per month, I will be eligible. I will be eligible for the committed discount. That is what the savings plan is. Now, there is something called spot instances. Spot instances. What is this spot instances? Where you will not get guaranteed uptime. Means if I create one EC2 instance, using spot instance means this EC2 instance might get terminated at any time by giving just 2 minutes notice. First, let me tell you why they will give you just 2 minutes notice. Or if there is no guarantee for my instances, my servers, why should I choose the spot? Because you will get up to 90% discount. You will get up to 90% discount. The immediate question, why should I choose this spot instances for 90% discount? If my instance got deleted, because I said at any time, no guarantee for the servers. At any time, the server might get deleted and you will lose all your data. That is a spot instance. First, let us talk about why they are offering you. Why? Because whenever Amazon is maintaining their data centers, they do have some spare resources for high availability. Like suddenly one physical server got crashed, so that they need to move all virtual machines to a healthy physical server, right? That's why always they will run some resources in idle mode. Means there will be no load, but whenever is required, these extra resources will be used. Extra CPU, extra RAM will be used. It means all the time that additional resources kept idle without being used. So they will offer you at 90% discount whenever something is wrong in the data center, or whenever suddenly load is getting increased. They need to claim back the resources which are offering at spot instances or spot model. So they will give just 2 minutes notice and they will take back your CPU and RAM, which means technically there is no server. And they will use the CPU and RAM for on demand and reserved instances. Now the question is, what's the use case for these spot instances? The use case is the jobs which can be interrupted. Means like, let us say, let us say this is the storage. Just I'm giving you an example. Here I have some huge data available, some raw data, and this raw data to be processed by some tools. Raw data to be processed by some tools, and that data to be stored in the storage. In this case, how I have to do? First, I need to create one server, which is EC2 instance, in which I need to install my tool, which can process the data. So it will read the data, process, and write to the different storage. So assume this is a spot instance. What happens? It is doing some data processing. Suddenly it got terminated, right? I don't lose my raw data. I don't lose my processed data. Just I have to recreate one more server. I can install the tool. For that, we use some images and I will start this particular instance. It will start doing the same job at less cost. So here I can say the jobs which can be interrupted, or if a server got terminated unexpectedly, and if that will not impact your business continuity, then you have to use the spot instances. What about the on-demand instances? On-demand instances are more flexible. So unpredictable loads, if you have some server to be running and you don't know when the size to be increased or reduced, in such cases, you have to go for on-demand instances. What about the reserved instances? Let us say if you have a long-term requirement, like 1 year requirement or 3 years requirement, you know that for sure you need this server for at least the next 3 years. So you know how the tenure that you need that particular server. In such cases, you can go for reserved instance and you can give a commitment of 1 year or 3 years, and you can get a decent amount of a discount. So these are the three different purchasing models. Then we have something called instance type. Instance, or I can say instance of family. We have instance of family. So what exactly these instance families are? Amazon introduced, or Amazon is offering different instance families based on the user requirement. EC2 instance of family. Let us say general purpose instances, instances, or compute or memory intensive, GPU accelerated, storage optimized. These are the different instance families. See here, general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated computing, storage optimized, and HPC optimized. What exactly these are? So for let us say the general purpose, the name itself, it is for general usage. So these general purpose instances are meant for the applications which requires a balance of a CPU and RAM networking utilizations for like web applications, websites, and all. So compute optimized means if you need a server to run an application which requires a high compute capacity, high computing power, in such cases, you have to use compute optimized. Let us say example, what we call that, the Tomcat applications, Tomcat server, which requires Java applications, which requires high CPU than a memory. In such cases, you have to use compute optimized. Memory optimized means if you need a server to run an application which requires more memory utilization than the CPU utilization, then you need to go for memory optimized. Accelerated computing. So here accelerated computing and the compute optimized. What exactly the difference is? In the accelerated computing, you will get GPUs, graphical processing units. What is the use case of that accelerated computing is machine learning, artificial intelligence, and if you are planning to train your own models or a 3D designing, graphic editings, right? In these cases, you have to use accelerated computing. Storage optimized means if you are planning to maintain a data file server where the number of users can read the data or write the data, which requires very high input and output operations on the hard disk. Whenever there is a huge data accessing, especially for data warehousing, data analytics, data processing, in such cases, you have to use the storage optimized. HPC optimized. HPC stands for high performance computing. High performance computing, especially we can say some kind of simulations, running some simulations or neural networks, deep learning, more than like what we call that, more than the machine learning and all, then you need to use HPC optimized. Now the question is how to identify what is general purpose instances, what are the compute optimized, and what are memory optimized. If you go to here, let me show you general purpose, right? If I click on explore general purpose instances, see here, M8G. If any instance name starts with M8G, that is a general purpose. M8I, that is also general purpose. Like see here, this M8G. Okay, I will give you a simple example. What exactly this M8G is. So let me take this example, M8G.X large. Let us try to understand. M8G.X large. What exactly these are? This M stands for instance family. Okay, like M stands for what exactly the M stands for? It is general. It is a general purpose. It is general purpose, M8. And here the G, 8. What is the 8? Eighth generation. Eighth generation. Earlier we used to have M5, M6, M7, M8. M8 is the latest generation, eighth generation of M series instances. And the G stands for the processor. The processor is Graviton, like our Intel processor, Xeon processor. It is the AWS Graviton 4 processor. What's this X large? X large indicates the size of the EC2 instance, like how many CPUs you get, how many CPUs, how much RAM, and how much network bandwidth you get. That is this one. Let me take you another example. T3 dot micro. So here the T stands for instance family, which is general purpose. 3 is third generation. Earlier, we used to have a T2. Earlier, we used to have a T2. T3 is the latest one. Micro is the size. Micro is the size. Like you will get 2 CPU and 1 GB of a RAM. Micro indicates the size, and these indicates instance family and the generation, which generation instances those are. See here, M8G.X large. These are Amazon EC2 M8G instances are powered by AWS Graviton 4 processors. They deliver the best price performance in Amazon EC2 for general purpose workloads. And if you see M8G.8X large, in which you will get 32 CPUs, 128 GB memory, and storage is EBS, which we will discuss in the next topic. After EC2, we are going to have a EBS, elastic block storage, which is a storage service. Okay, let me go for something else. Okay, here M8I, right? M8I. Can you guess what is this I? M is a general purpose. 8 is the 8th generation. I stands for Intel processor, Intel Xeon 6 processor. I stands for Intel processor. See here, M8I 96X dot large, where you will get a 384 CPUs, 1536 GB memory. For every requirement, they do offer. See here, with a 2 CPU, 4 GB, 2 CPU, 8 GB exist, 4 CPU, 16 GB exist, 32 CPU, 128 GB exist. And if you need 384 CPU, 1536 GB of memory, that is also available. Okay, let me go for something else, not M. And even Amazon is offering you not only the AWS, not only Windows and Linux, they also offers Mac operating system also. Mac machines also you can get. Okay, these all are M series. Okay, see here. T4G. Okay, can you guess? T is indicates instance family. 4 is a generation. G is the processor. Let me check what it is. Graviton processor. Graviton processor. Medium, 2 CPU, 4 GB RAM. Micro, already I said 2 CPU, 1 GB of a RAM. Nano, 2 CPU, just 0.5 GB of memory. Okay, let me go with T3A. Okay, what is this A stands for? Can you guess? Can you guess what might be the A? Any guess? So T is the instance family. 3 is the generation. What is this A? A is a processor. What kind of processor that A stands for? Any guess? Anybody? Can someone guess what this A stands for? No guess. You can't guess. A stands for kind of AMD processors. Let me show you. See here. AMD processor. A stands for AMD processor. Okay. If you ask me, do I need to remember all these things? No. Nobody can remember all these. Only in the general purpose, I am showing you these many. If I go to something like what we call that compute optimized, then assume how many instances you can get. There should be huge, right? Definitely. Okay. So no need to remember, just you need to identify what exactly that this stands for and what this stands for. That is what you have to remember, right? This complete thing is called as instance type. An instance type contains the instance family, generation of that particular instance, processor, and also the size of the instance. Just example, the same one. Let us say, let me go back to the same example. T3 dot micro. This is called as instance type. So here, this indicates instance family. This indicates generation. The three indicates the generation, and this size of the instance. Or let me take another example. M8G dot X large, right? So here again, M indicates instance family, 8 indicates the generation, and the G indicates the processor. This is going to be G stands for graviton, and this is the size of the instance. This is how you need to remember. This is how you need to remember. Okay. So as of now, we covered two things. What are those? One is purchasing models, and we covered instance type or instance family. You can say instance family. What are the purchasing models we have? On demand, reserve, spot, and then savings plan. And what are the instance families? General purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, then accelerated computing, then storage optimized, HPC optimized. HPC stands for high performance computing. By seeing the name itself, you need to identify the features of purchasing model and instance family. On demand, no upfront, no commitment, flexible. Whenever you want, you can create, you can delete, pay as you go. Reserve, there is a commitment like 1 year commitment and a 3 years commitment, right? And then there is a payment plan like no upfront, partial upfront, and full upfront. Spot, and you can get up to 75% discount, whereas in the spot instances you can get 90% discount, and they are not recommended for production or development workloads. If you want to test something for a shorter period with a less amount, then you have to go for spot instances. Or if whatever you are using, if that application can be interrupted, and if you are not going to lose any data, or even if you lose the data and if it will not impact the business continuity, or the data can be recreated or regenerated easily, and if you are looking for low cost servers, then the only option is spot instances. In the savings plan, we are going to give the commitment with respect to CPUs and RAM per month or across all EC2 instances. Means I can create only one server or 1,000 servers. That doesn't matter to AWS. But I'm going to utilize the committed CPUs and committed amount of RAM in a given month so that I will get some discount. That is what the purchasing model. General purpose for regular workloads, compute optimized for the applications which require more compute power, memory optimized, for the applications which requires more memory, especially for in-memory databases. Generally, the databases requires more memory. Accelerated computing, the applications which require graphic cards. And storage optimized, the applications which requires high data transfer speeds, especially for data warehousing, data analytics, data processing kind of a thing. HPC optimized for more power than the GPUs, like deep learning, like a kind of training your machine learning models and all. In such cases, you have to use HPC optimized. And apart from these two, there is one more thing we must select at the time of creating the EC2 instance. What exactly that is? Tenancy model. Tenancy model. What is a tenancy? What is a tenancy or a tenant? Which we are staying, right? Someone is staying in your house and paying rent. We call them as a tenant, right? And whenever you're creating your EC2 instance, these EC2 instances to be placed on some physical servers, right? These are the virtual machines which are located on some physical server. So here we have a tenancy options. One is shared tenancy, dedicated instance, and dedicated host. What does that mean is shared tenancy means whenever I create an EC2 instance, let us say there is one physical server on which they are using something called virtualization. Okay, my EC2 instance will be created here. This is my EC2 instance. And you created your EC2 instance using shared tenancy model, means your EC2 instance might be placed on the same physical server, but your instances and my instances are isolated virtually. Like, let us say you are staying in a PG and you can share the room with some other roommates, right? But you have your own bed, you have your separate bed, you have separate locker and all, but you're sharing the same physical room. That is what the shared tenancy means. Dedicated instance means a dedicated hardware will be allocated to you on that single physical server. In this server, there might be multiple hard disks, right? Physical hard disks. One physical hard disk will be allocated to you and one physical hard disk will be allocated to me, so that the physical hardware is isolated. We are not sharing. Dedicated host, or I can say shared tenancy is like sharing room with your friends or roommates. Dedicated instance is like kind of a flat in an apartment. Each flat belong to individual family. I'm in flat number 1, you are in the flat number 2. You can't use my flat, I can't use your flat, like, or I can say floors. Best thing is in an individual building, 5-story building, first floor for you, second floor for me, third floor for someone. That's the best example for dedicated instance. But the common area is going to be shared, but the physical resources, the flat area is exclusively for yourself. Dedicated host is like a kind of independent house. Generally, the banking sector companies or R&D things, R&D organizations, they prefer dedicated host. They don't want to share the hardware with any other person, any other organization. These are the three things. Means whenever you are creating, your server, whenever you're creating your EC2 instance, you must choose purchasing model, right? And instance type and tenancy model, or we can say tenancy option. Okay, now to get a server, what all we need first thing? What all we need? Let us say if you're purchasing a computer, right? What all you will get in a computer? What are the mandatory things that you run a computer. CPU, RAM, right? Those are mandatory things. Without CPU, RAM, you can't run your machine, right? CPU, RAM. So first thing is CPU, RAM. Then we need a storage, which is a hard disk. So at the time of a creation, you have to choose the storage also. So in the storage, we have something called a service called EBS, Elastic Block Store. With the help of EBS, we can get a storage for your EC2 instance like a 30 GB or a 50 GB, 100 GB, and so on. So in this storage, we have a two categories again. We have two categories again. One is we call this storage as a volume. One is a root volume, and the second one is EBS volume. What exactly these two are? Root volume means, let us say, your C drive, means the drive in which your operating system to be installed. The D drive, E drive, and they are optional. They are not mandatory, right? D drive, additional drives are not mandatory. But if you need the additional drive, then you have to use extra volume, and that is called as a EBS volume. And then on top of that, the most important thing is operating system. Without an operating system, you can't run your machine. Now, the important thing is how we will get the operating system. How you will get operating system into your EC2 instance. So the operating system can be installed automatically by AWS according to your preference. And how there is something called Amazon machine image. We call it as AMI. AMI, Amazon machine image. It's a kind of an image which contains the operating system, which contains the configuration, initial configuration of the operating system, settings, and additional softwares. So Amazon is offering you like thousands of AMIs. Thousands of AMIs, Windows, Linux. Again, in the Linux, we have a different Linux like Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise, Oracle Linux, SUSE Linux, Fedora Linux. We have n number of things. Again, there are like multiple combinations. Windows operating system with SQL Server, Windows operating system with SQL Server 2016, Windows operating system 2019 plus Microsoft SQL Server 2022. So you have to select an AMI as per your requirement, an AMI as per your requirement, so that that's specific operating system and the additional software will be automatically installed into that EC2 instance by AWS. Just I'm covering the theory part. While creating our first EC2 instance, we will talk about each and every option again. Because at the time of creation, the first thing is you have to choose Amazon machine image. Then I will show you the available AMIs. How many AMIs are there, right? And how to differentiate what AMI to be choose. Everything we will see while we are doing the practical. Mostly in the tomorrow session, we can do the practical because uh, it's a huge thing. Without covering a single theory part, we can't go for a practical. That's why today's session is completely for theory part. Tomorrow, we will start creation, and all these points, whatever we discuss theoretically, we will cover all these again in the tomorrow session at the time of doing the practical. Along with these terminologies, we have to cover a lot more. Something like a key pair, security groups, right? I will cover all those terms in the first 10 to 15 minutes, and then we will see like how to create our instances, how to log in from your laptops, how to delete, how to stop, how to restart. All those things we will see. Okay, right. So as of now, just we have seen the overview of like what is EC2, what are the different purchasing models available, what are the different instance families, and how to identify the instance type, and we have seen the tenancy options, right? So as of now, if you guys have any questions on what we covered, just let me know so that I can give some explanation about your questions. Also, I created Telegram group. Mostly, I will do one thing. Whoever joined for the session, you guys can click the link and you can be a part of the Telegram group. And again, I will share the link of the Telegram group to everyone over the email so that you guys can click on the link and you can join. No need to worry. Just let me get the link first, where it is. In the meanwhile, if you have any question, just share that questions in the comment section. Okay, I think I can't type that huge thing. Just give me a moment. Let me get that into my email and let me copy that. Or okay, give me a second. I think I had. Let me. Okay, anybody having any questions in the meanwhile? In the meanwhile, I'm grabbing the link. Yeah, just okay, wait a second. Yes, Sri Harsha, you can unmute and you can ask the
Hi,
question.
sir.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, actually, I joined very late to the
Mm-hmm,
class. Actually, I didn't listen half of the section. Can I
mm-hmm.
have that recording section link?
Yeah, sure. I will. Yeah, okay. I will share the recording link to the people who ever joined for the session. Yeah, I will upload to
Yeah.
YouTube and I will share the link. Okay.
Oh, okay. And I mean, this week, this 5 days section, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
that's good. 5 days session.
Oh, okay. Sir, he told me that this Telegram link now itself
That's
only
what
you
I'm
will
sharing.
share, or
I'm sharing. Just wait a minute. Just I
sure,
will
sir.
share now and also over the email also I will share. But whoever
Sure,
already a
sir.
part of the session, just you guys can
Yes, sir.
quickly join, right? Let me give me a second.
Yes, yes. Due to that rain, that's why I couldn't
Okay,
join the class.
that's okay. Yeah, sure. I shared the link to the Telegram group, so you guys can just click on the link or just copy the link and copy and save, and then just you can click on that and you can be a part of the Telegram group where you can ask the questions and you can share the errors while you're doing the practicals. Okay, so yep. Anybody else having any questions?